let's talk about Breach's interview, right? We discussed Breach's interview on Twitch, but we haven't discussed it on the show, which is sort of where I really wanted to discuss it. Unfortunately, it happened too early in the week to wait all the way till the show for Breach's interview and the discussion thereof. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole discussion again. I think that would be useless because most of you should have seen my video by now. But there is a portion of it that I do want to focus on that not enough people are focusing on. And it was Ian's commitment, shall we say, to no longer having systems of borrowed power in the next expansions. Do you guys remember that? How many people here watched the interview with Breach? Your reactions are priceless. Yeah, I laughed so hard at Breach's reactions. I watched it like 3 times, and there were some things where Ian would say something and Breach would just go, and then realize, oh wait, he's got his camera on. He should probably not be doing that. But there was definitely areas where he was just... So they were sort of talking about borrowed power, right? And the question effectively is the one that we've been asking for a long fucking time, right? The borrowed power systems is disgusting. It has reached the point where every expansion we get so many new borrowed power systems, and every expansion people lose those at the end, and it just makes you feel weaker, which goes literally against what an RPG is supposed to be. You're supposed to progress in power, not progress in power, then delete power, then progress in power, then delete power, and it just sort of makes the world feel weird, right? For all the fucking wrong reasons, and Blizzard should stop doing it. So Ian did say that they're aware that borrowed power has sort of gotten away from them, and in the next expansion, they are going to be looking at striking a balance. So not no borrowed power, but less borrowed power. Now, to this degree, and we should just talk about this, something like class sets, raid sets, right? Raid sets is borrowed power. Let's be real. The only difference is it's usually it only lasts for a single raid and then it cancels itself. So that still counts as a borrowed power system, but it's a system that we're used to. We know that it happens, and every new raid set makes you more powerful than the previous one. So it does sort of feel like a good thing. Here's my problem with Blizzard's entire philosophy around gaming, right? The way that Blizzard views the implementation of things within World of Warcraft, I think, is the fundamental downfall at this point of World of Warcraft. Now, for those of you who don't know what I'm saying, World of Warcraft is really in stagnation mode. It has a bunch of players, obviously, and we all still play the game, and we're very loyal to the game. But how often do we get new players? How often do new people enter the game? How often do they get 1 million new signups? Almost never, right? This almost never happens. Every single expansion just brings back the old guard, and then they sort of leave a little bit, and then they might come back for every patch, but it's never really new players. So you can look at, for example, as a YouTuber, I can look at my age demographics. The vast majority of my audience is between 25 and 35, I believe. Then I have the second largest group is 35 to 45, or 35 to 50, and then plus 50 is a relatively smaller group, but it's the third biggest group. If you go from 13 to 18, almost none. Like less than 1% of my entire audience, 13 to 18. 18 to 25, I think it's 2% of my entire audience. This tells you there's a fundamental issue with young people, new gamers, stepping into the game. Right? They're not coming in. And I believe that one of the fundamental reasons for this is Blizzard's sort of insistence on creating the game wrong. If Blizzard wants to... Okay, I realize there are some of you that is in the 2%, but you are truly in the minority. I love all of you, but you are in the minority. If it was wartime and we were going to take all the different age groups to go to war with each other, you guys would lose just because you're so small in numbers, right? So I love you guys, but this is the truth. There's not many young people playing WoW, which is sad, but it is the truth. I believe that Blizzard has a fundamental flaw when it comes to their philosophy and how they design the game. And it is because they constantly think short-term rather than long-term. Every single borrowed power system that Blizzard have implemented into World of Warcraft suffered from that specific shortcoming. It's designed to be a system that is introduced in Shadowlands and then also end in Shadowlands. And this forces the system to come with inherent issues that cannot be fixed unless you open the scope of the system. One of my biggest issues and one of my biggest gripes is that every system is somehow tied to player power. And I constantly think to myself, why? Why not just have a system that's just there for fun and maybe cosmetic, but it doesn't do anything for player power? And then it hit me this afternoon. If you have a system that is only relevant for one expansion, it has to be a system that matters, right? This system has to be played by players. Otherwise, you've wasted a lot of resources on something that no one is interacting with. Because think about it this way. Every single system in World of Warcraft is literally resources, right? It's a literal resource. If you want Torghast, you have to allocate resources, this means people, man hours, and money, to developing said system. Now, if that system is played by no one, then all of those resources could have been better spent on Mythic Plus, where a lot of people interact with that system. Because you've given the system a small amount of shelf life, now you have to force people to do it, otherwise you've wasted your time. Whereas if you made Torghast from the beginning, and this is something that I genuinely wish Blizzard would do, Torghast moves to Karazhan, and it becomes a staple for World of Warcraft. This is now, Karazhan is the new Torghast. It's going to be the thing that people are going to do for multiple expansions, and it's always going to be a cosmetic thing, because now you have a longer period of time to start fixing the system so that more people actually start interacting with it. Whereas if you do it only for a single expansion, this is why I think Mythic Plus is such a success. When Blizzard rolled out Mythic Plus, it was never meant to just be for Legion. It was never meant to only exist in Legion. Mythic Plus was always envisioned to be long-term. So every expansion, Blizzard makes it better. Every expansion, Blizzard builds on it to make it more fun for a larger group of people. Because they have the luxury of time. Can you imagine how horrible Mythic Plus would have been if it was only implemented for Legion and then disappeared at the end of it? It would have failed, fundamentally failed. Because in order to make it work then, they would have had to tie all of your progression to Mythic Plus. The fact that they didn't have to do that meant that people who want to do Mythic Plus can do Mythic Plus because they like doing Mythic Plus. It gives them some gear, but it doesn't give them the best gear in the game. There's better gear for raiders, there's better gear for PvPers, for the people that do that content, but for Mythic Plus players, there is the gear that they require, and it's the gear that they want. I want Blizzard to do more of those systems, more long-term systems, no more expansion-wide systems. I think expansion-wide systems is one of the worst mistakes Blizzard have ever made. Every system, even if it is a borrowed power system, to my mind, must be implemented as a game system. Now, of course, we can talk even more in detail about player housing, which I still don't understand how that isn't a thing in 2021. But we've been discussing that for a while already, so I don't think we need to rehash. And I just want to be clear here. I will most likely never own a home in World of Warcraft. It's not my thing. I don't do housing. I not in any of the games that I play do I do housing. But I don't see how you can have an MMO and not have that. So there's a bunch of other systems that we could obviously talk about that I think would be something that people would actively want and something that people would actively be happy with, which I think right now Blizzard is just sort of failing on at a fundamental level. How many people want housing in World of Warcraft? Just give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. How many people would love housing, would love a place to show off their achievements, show off their boss skills, show off their mounts and their pets? Based on the responses, it's pretty 50-50. That's actually interesting. That's actually interesting. I don't know why, though. So those of you that are saying no, can you tell me why? Why would you not want it? There are so many empty towns and empty houses that could be repurposed, but they don't let us. Nice to know. Agreed. Definitely, just to show off my things. So the fact that people are saying no really surprises me, because if housing is done right, you genuinely do not have to have it, because it should never be tied to player power. Player housing should be something that is built primarily for collectors, for people that want to exercise their artistic abilities. You know, people want to build castles, want to build massive mansions, should be able to do that. And the way you can implement those things is so amazing, because suddenly you can make the whole world matter again. Guess what? If you want dragon-inspired items in your home, so maybe a dragon door or dragon windows, inspired by the draconic nature of dragons, how about you go kill Anexia and hope that she drops the door that you're looking for? Maybe you want ogre aesthetics. Well, go do a couple of ogre dungeons, old ones, new ones. Throw everything in the mix. Bring the whole old world back for the player base. And then what you do is you take things like world quests, make them better, not as they exist right now, but you tie world quest progression not just to gear, but to actual player housing items. So a person that does a world quest that doesn't give a fuck about player gear, right? They don't want to get more powerful. They don't have to choose the item. They can choose the door or the window or the wall or the fucking what poster or whatever you want to name it, right? Whatever you can dream of, you can add that to world quests, meaning that collectors in the game will always have something to do, and the people who don't give a fuck, well, they don't have to do it, right? You genuinely don't, they don't have to do it. They don't have to partake in it. To my mind, that would save so much in World of Warcraft's universe. It would make the game so much better. And then, of course, they can go ahead and they can add things like guild housing or guild order halls. They can add the class order halls and make that a feature that, again, spans the entirety of World of Warcraft. So it's not something that just goes away. It's something that actually exists forever. And it keeps getting better. It keeps offering more things for players to actually do. And these are things that I think will keep casual players from leaving the game. It will give the casual player base something that they can look forward to and something that they can do, which I think would be just insanely fun. Not for me. It's not something that I would partake in, but I do think it's something that the rest of the World of Warcraft player base, especially the ones who do not partake in sort of the end game content, this would give them a reason to play the game. It would give them a reason to do things. But then, of course, if we're going to start talking about things that I would like to implement into the game, I still do not understand how we don't have solo dungeons in the game. If World of Warcraft was 10 years younger, I would have said no to solo dungeons. But Blizzard have already created an MMO where most of the game can be played on your own. You do not have to play the game with anyone else. So why not just go that extra step and give people a dungeon that they can do solo, right? It doesn't have to be 8. It can be 1 or 2, maybe even 3 dungeons that is a solo experience for people who don't want to have guilds and don't want to play with other people. So I think... So I do want to say this final suggestion isn't actually something that I want in the game. if Blizzard could fix their social element, right? Fix it to the point where people feel like they want to be more social. They want to join guilds again and they want to do things with their guilds. I'd be happy, right? Then you don't need these things. But if Blizzard is going to insist on making their game more single player friendly, then fuck it. At least give us something to do solo, right? Give us solo dungeons that we can sort of test our might on, and maybe there is some story in that. And then if you have player housing, those dungeons can also drop items for your house, so it gives you a reason to fucking go in and do it. So to my mind, I think these are things that Blizzard absolutely have to do if they're going to retain a player base or a portion of the player base that is most of the time left out. And if you tell me that the casual crowd isn't left out in World of Warcraft, I'm going to start laughing. Torghast is a solo experience. You're correct, Stephanie, and I don't have a problem with that. But you can do more things, right? You can definitely do more in that space for the solo players. Because I genuinely think that the ultra casual, the only things that they really have is mount collections and pet collections and achievement collections, which no longer really feel as good as it used to. Like, I remember a time where collecting mounts was sometimes a bit of an effort and was actually interesting. For those of you that remember the Netherwing Drake farms and remember the Raptor that you got from Angora Crater, these were fun mounts to fucking get, or the mounts that was connected to almost impossible achievements. Whereas nowadays, it feels like every second thing awards a mount. Every second thing awards an achievement. Every second thing awards a fucking title or a pet. And it just sort of feels as if, is these things still as sought after? Is it still a challenge for the casual player to actually get these things? I just feel like Blizzard have gotten a bit lazy with some of their world design, where it just feels like they add these things because they know they have to be there, rather than just actually putting some thought into how these things should be added. Collecting things in the real end game. Collecting things is the real end game. I don't necessarily agree.